All right, guys, we are back for part 2 here. We're, again, joined with Dan Infalt. And for those of you that are just joining us, for those that have been watching, we were talking about several different things, but I had brought up the video that you have out called Chasing Down a Dream.
Chasing Down a Dream.
And you had talked, and I had questions about some of your movements, just trying, I guess, not question you, but trying to figure out the method or why you do certain things. And then we were kind of talking about some cattails and a bed that was in the middle and how you would intentionally kind of scent up some of that perimeter bedding area. Is that right?
Yeah.
So essentially what you were trying to do there is force that buck to kind of use that primary bedding spot. Is that right. Correct?
Yep.
Is that something that you do frequently? I think in the break here, we kind of talked about it just briefly. I think Chris had asked, do you intentionally try to maybe stink up certain spots to strategically move some of those deer?
Absolutely. And I do it in different ways. I mean, the main way I do it is just by hunting everywhere. There's only so many bedding areas, and there's only so many bedding areas a mature buck will bed in. So if I hunt all the bedding areas down, I'll run across them eventually.
Sure.
So with that, what about using scents or scent control and all that? Is that nothing you even partake in?
I do not believe that scent control in any manner works.
They're going to smell you.
They're going to smell you.
So you're using the wind in your favor, and that's it.
Correct.
So all those walls of scent. What about say?
I'll just cover my mug up here. My scent lock.
Yeah. No, but what about say attractants, Dawn heats, and all those kind of things?
Yeah. Well, usually that comes along with your scent being next to the attractant.
I'm
kind of like association, right?
If doe and heat really worked like a hot doe, did you ever see a hot doe in a swamp? She's not being left alone for anything. I mean, no matter where she goes, she's being harassed. She lays down for a while, bucks come from downwind and find her, and she's back up and running, right? And that's where we have the chase phase, because they smell and they find them, right? Mm-hmm. Put out a bottle of doe and heat. If it really worked, you could put it upwind on any swamp and sit there and wait, and they'd all be coming.
Right.
Because they can smell for miles.
Sure.
So I think it'll work to a degree, but they have not yet captured some of the ingredient, whether it's the live smell or what. They haven't captured it to the degree that they're fooling all the deer. They're fooling one if he's so worked up he wants it to be a hot doe.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, every deer in that woods, every buck,
be lining
running.
Up.
Yep, exactly. Just like they do when it's a real hot doe.
That's a good point, and probably something a lot of us have never really thought about before.
Well, now I have, and there's a few that they'll show you how they even collect the urine and the doe and estrus, and it's one doe to one bottle kind of thing.
One thing I got to say is almost every one you open smells like ammonia.
Ammonia, yeah.
And a live deer don't smell like ammonia. That's after it's stale.
Right.
Synthetics got to be getting close. I mean, because that's not something that rots. But still, I don't see the results that would come if it were real. And me personally, I hope they never find it. I hope they never fix
I would
scent
think that
control.
the woods would be empty after that.
Right, but what good would hunting be if you could take away a deer's scent? That's what makes it a challenge.
Yeah.
I don't want people to be scent free.
Sure.
Because think about it like this: if I could remove my odor, I know I could sneak up on deer. I know where they're bedded.
Right.
I could just creep in there and kill them.
From any direction.
How fair would that be?
Now I can come in from straight with the wind, straight at the bed. So he's looking the absolute opposite way.
Right.
I mean, obviously there's some spots I couldn't get in because of noise. Mm-hmm. But you could literally just sneak up on deer and shoot them in their beds.
Right.
And it just wouldn't be fair. And the same thing with the scent. I mean, I don't want deer to hunt me. I'm hunting deer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be the hunter. When you're tricking them to come into you, that never really works out real well, number one. And number two, it's not satisfying. It's not you figured out the puzzle and you're going and setting up on this deer. You're figuring out what tree he's going to walk by in daylight today. And you're going to be there. And how are you going to set up in that tree to kill that deer based on the winds, the thermals, and everything else?
Right.
And that deer protecting himself when he comes out of bedding. And that deer might only be moving, if you're hunting a mature buck on public land that's been shot at his whole life, he might only be moving 200 yards in daylight. And the game is, can you get into that window and kill that deer? Figure out where in that woods, it's probably 1 or 2 trees in that entire forest that you could be in and kill that deer. And if you do it, that's a satisfying thing.
Sure.
And to me, that's my style of hunting. I'm not knocking it for anybody else, but I hunt deer. I don't have deer hunt me. And that's what you're doing with scents. That's what you're doing with baits. That's what you're doing, with other things. I even, I'll hunt on a food plot, like on Dave's or something. But even then I feel a little guilty. Like it's not, and I shouldn't, but I feel like it's not really
hunting.
To me, to my style. I mean,
you're
it's
trying
not,
to bring
not,
them to you and
not
you
what I
go to
want
them.
to do.
Right.
I mean, when I think back of my most memorable hunts, it's like the Rome Legend buck.
Yep.
I mean, that's not my biggest buck. I mean, it's 165 inches or something, but it's a deer I really wanted. Everybody was after and stuff. But I went in and I figured out where that deer should be by sign and by knowledge of past sightings and stuff. Figured out which bedding area I thought he'd be in. Took a solid guess at it and figured he was going to be there, right in that pre-rut period, and snuck in there on Halloween day, snuck up a tree and figured out which bedding area I thought he'd be in and where in that bedding area he'd be based on the wind direction. And I was staring at the bed when he stood up in it and walked to me. Now that is a satisfying hunt.
Sure.
Yeah.
Putting a bottle of pee, hanging it from a tree and having a deer run to it and you shoot it is not a satisfying hunt to me.
Sure. Yeah,
It's not, to me, it's not just about killing deer.
Yeah.
If it's about killing deer, just go to a game farm.
right.
Right.
That's a good point. Speaking of the Rome,
Rome Legend.
The Rome Legend. For those of you that aren't familiar with that story, do you want to fill us all in? It's a great story.
Sure. That goes back about 6 years ago, I think. 7, maybe a little longer. I don't know.
2015-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be my age, it all kind of blends.
I know. I say that all the time. Like somebody, when did that happen? I'm like, it's all for me. Everything was like, it was like 5 or 6 years ago. Everything was 5 or 6 years ago. I was like, man, a lot of stuff happened like 5 or 6 years ago.
That buck, people were seeing it, shining it, glassing, and everybody in town was kind of talking about it. And it was staying on a game preserve that was across the road that has paid hunters. And it would come across onto the public occasionally. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, there's plenty of does over in that preserve. It liked the girls on my side of the road. It seemed to show up during rut.
Those are paid girls on the other side.
He was sick of the home girls.
Yeah, the girls on the ranch were kind of heavy.
Yeah.
But then he would mark up everything. So he was one of those bucks that would leave big rubs everywhere and scrapes. And the logging road going onto the public came right from that preserve area. And he'd walk up that thing and put right where everybody enters the woods, put these giant scrapes all the way up there, and
So everybody crazy.
I call those knee knockers. You see them and you get all scared and all happy. And
So in that particular area of the woods, there's only like 2 or 3 bedding areas that the mature bucks use when they're in there, and one of them in particular has been really good to me, and I've killed a lot of big bucks there, and they always seem to, when they're there, they bed there, and I probably killed close to a dozen big bucks out of that bedding area myself. And that spot, when it's primary, so it holds bucks year round.
Okay.
But what I've learned over time is there's a doe bedding area adjacent to it. And during that pre-rut period, that's the spot for big bucks. Okay. So that there's like a little window of like the last week of October that thing is just on fire, maybe like first couple days in November. And then it just starts getting where they wander off to other spots. But October day, I went in there and I checked a rub line that comes from that direction but doesn't go back to the bedding. But whenever that rub line opens up, I know there's a buck in there. And I checked to see if that buck was there. And the year before, I ran into that buck in that bedding area just randomly. So I had that on it, and it was that time frame. So I happen to know from past experiences that these bucks seem to repeat themselves year after year on the same dates. So I went and I checked, and his rub line was open. And there were people hunting all over back there because there were rubs and scrapes up and down that road. And I had to walk past a pile of guys to get back there. And it was the first day of the year that I hunted them because I just observed, sat back, watched, glassed, shined, checked that rub line. Now it opens up. It's the time frame's right. I go back there, and there was a guy with a decoy. I mean, there was guys all over the place. And I had to walk past these guys. And you get into looks and the whistles and stuff like, don't go past me, but they're not going to kill anything anyways. What am I supposed to do?
Right.
You know, I know they're not. I mean, they're out in open areas and stuff. So I just went a wide circle around these guys and went back to that bedding area and crept in until I was 75 yards from that bed. And I watched him rise up out of the exact bed I thought he'd be in and come to me. And I did shoot that deer at closing time.
Yeah.
Even though I was 75 yards from its bed. So those guys 200 yards back didn't have a chance.
Sure.
Right.
I know you.
That's how legends are born.
Yeah.
And what did
That's what started where everybody in the whole town started waving at me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some with their hands, some with one
Some with
finger.
one
I was going to say, I remember hearing that story somewhere.
Yeah,
They were
it ticked
ticked.
a lot of people off because it was my second buck of the year. It was one of those years where you could shoot multiple bucks,
Sure.
like earn a buck or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was my second big buck of the year, and there's a lot of people that were really ticked about that. And it's like, well, you could do it too.
Yeah.
Right.
No one's stopping you.
Right.
You were out there, you know. I'd say, yeah. What are you going to do? You talking about signing that? How much stock do you put in the sign? Or is like, you know, or how do you differentiate? Maybe daytime sign versus the sign is probably these rubs and that, or
Location.
it's night. Just the location.
Mm-hmm. So I don't take much stock at all on rubs in the middle of the woods, except for to say that there's a buck here. He's here
Just to
somewhere.
identify that
Now I
there's-
know there's one in the woods.
Yeah.
Now I got something to go after.
Okay.
That's what a rub in the middle of just a random rub in the woods or a scrape with a big track and it means to me. Then I can start saying, okay, well, where did he come from? Mm-hmm. But when you start finding those rubs coming out of known bedding, that's when it catches my attention. Or in an area that looks like it should be good bedding. So, and that's based on terrain.
Yeah.
Or, you know, thick low points or, you
Sure.
know, in hill country, it's based on a ridge or whatever. So when it's coming out of bedding is when I'm interested or going in.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Because, you know, like you just said, you get all, you know, everybody gets excited, you know, when they see a scrape line or
Their knees
whatever.
start knocking.
Yeah.
They're excited, you know.
And I mean, I do
Adrenaline
too.
kicks in.
I do too. But again, it's like, my guess is this is probably more, this is happening nighttime. And then on my lease, I'll put a trail camera up and
Yeah.
sure enough, you know, occasionally, maybe once it gets a little bit closer to the rut, you'll start getting a couple daytime pictures here and there, especially in a scrape and that. But
So now most people that don't hunt bedding like I do, they find a rub line or they find a scrape line. That's what they hunt, right? Now, you go out through that public land, and every time you find a big rub in the open woods, there's tree stands around it or setups.
Sure.
Right? If everybody's hunting like that, everybody should be killing giant bucks if that works.
Yeah.
Not everybody's shooting giant bucks.
Right.
I think you're laying out a lot of common sense here for us here already today, and you know, it's things I think we tend to overthink. I think sometimes, and
You know, a guy really wants there to be a giant buck coming to that rub during
right.
daylight.
Yeah.
So they talk themselves into it.
Sure.
But really, you got to have a little common sense, and you got to say, well, is a 5-year-old deer going to walk through the woods to this spot in daylight? And if he did, and he did that on a regular basis, wouldn't he already be dead? He wouldn't have made it to 5 years
Right.
old.
Yeah.
But I've also talked my way out of hunting good spots, and then you talk to a guy, that's exactly where he was, and he shot that buck. It's like, oh, why did I second guess myself?
And generally, it's his one big buck.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
He got lucky, you know.
all right, so when
Think
You're
about this. I
typical.
mean, you got you ever take a walk in the woods during the rut and try and scout? I mean, I go to new destinations, and sometimes you got to go out and scout. And you walk around during rut. You can walk around at noon. You run into hunters constantly. They're like, "Hey," you know,
Yeah.
they whistle at you or whatever. You can hardly move around during the rut and
Right.
scout, right? How would a big buck survive walking around in daylight at that
right.
time of the year?
Right.
So obviously, those deer aren't running around everywhere like everybody thinks.
Yeah.
You know, or they wouldn't be 5 years old.
That's very true.
not to say you won't see them. I mean, I've seen them in the middle of the rut, never anywhere close to me, glassing them, you know. But, all right, so in a typical year, you were saying you get, what, 90 days of hunting?
80, 90, yeah. Unless I take out early.
All right, so how, I guess, briefly or highlight, how does your year progress? Meaning you're scouting, you have your scouting workshops, but you yourself would scout. When do you start putting out cameras? When are you deciding, when do you start making a plan? How does your year, pan out in that respect?
Well, as soon as I'm done hunting, I'm scouting on foot. I'm scouting 24/7, so no matter what, there's some sort of scouting I'm doing.
Right.
Whether it's looking at maps, whether it's, but I start out my year in January by walking. A lot of guys go looking for sheds. I go looking for beds because I want to kill deer. I don't want to, lay antlers on shelves. That's just my thing. I know. I know a lot of people love shed antlers.
Right. Different strokes.
To me, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, matter of fact, I don't even pick up most of them I see. I pick up one if it's real big or unique or something. Otherwise, I just leave them there. But
thank you.
Still hasn't helped us, but thanks.
But mostly, I'm looking for bedding areas and trying to figure out deer. And I'll go investigate things that came up through the year or that I heard about, or new swamps, new public properties, or I'll travel to new places and just take a look at a place I'd like to hunt and get in there and get a feel for it. So if I come back, I know what I'm going to do. And I look at the bedding. And I do that throughout the spring up until about turkey season. And then I start annoying people, so I quit. But then there's kind of a lapse when I turkey hunt and get things done. And then after that, like right about now, I'm going to start glassing. And then I'll probably drop some cameras out too.
So in your arsenal, how many cameras?
I'll put up 4 or 5. I don't get overboard on it.
No.
Is that on public?
Some of it's on public, some of it's on private.
See, now because I try so many different areas, still up in Kettle Moraine, but there's a section, see, it's 400 yards that you got to go through a swamp to get to, and it's, or 400 yards, 400 acres. Very few people go to it, but I'll usually put up like 4 or 5 cameras there. Then I'll go to a different section, maybe another 4, and then somewhere else another 4. And then I have the problem. Now you got a cell cam. So mine are all, you got to go get the card, read the card, whatever. I try letting them soak for a bit, and then I will start adjusting where I'm putting them. If I'm not seeing them here or I'm seeing coming, I'll adjust them to follow their path.
Right.
I mean, that's the way I do it.
So I'm not following deer around. I'm trying to locate deer. So for me, I want to know that there's a shooter in that woods.
Right.
If there is, okay, now I got a destination. I can pull the cameras. Now they do no good for me. I know the deer I want to shoot is there.
Yep.
Now I can go locate another one, right? So I'm going to go out and I'm going to locate deer, whether it's through glassing or whatever. Now, if I'm glassing them, I might keep track of them glassing, but mostly closer to season. But for me, there's not giant bucks on every public property like people think. And sometimes they just float through, at night, make some rubs and stuff and tease people. So what I want to do is I want to know where these big bucks are and where they're living. And then when season comes around, I'm actually hunting animals that I know rather than just going out and randomly hunting spots or bedding areas that were good in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to know there's one there now. So that's what trail cameras are doing for me. That's what glassing's doing for me. That'll go on right up until season.
So how often do you have cell cams or SD card cams?
I got both.
So how often do you check your cameras and your card cams?
I'll just put them out for like a month or so and then go grab them and see what was on them. I probably won't even leave them there after that. I just want to know if there's something going into that spot that's worth shooting. So what's nice about summertime is I can just go put it on a food spot.
Sure.
And then I don't care if it's midnight. And really all my cameras are set up like that. Except for maybe sometimes cell cams. I'll put those in strategic spots for hunting. But regular cams I just put in nighttime areas that I don't care if I spook deer.
Sure.
Because I just want to know if they're there.
Yeah.
My scouting and my abilities to read a map and what I know about the property will kill the deer. I don't need a trail camera to kill the deer. So that's what they're not.
It's just
that's
a
not
little
what they're
intel.
for. Because there's a scent thing with checking the things and everything else.
Yeah.
And there's even an addiction. You see some of these guys and they're so addicted to getting the pictures that they're killing their hunting.
Right.
And I'll tell them
For a lot of years.
you want to hang that picture on your wall?
Yeah. Or do you want to hang that book on your wall? Right. Yeah, I was guilty of it years ago too. Like just so anxious to get out there. And I mean, now
Been out for 2 days. I got to go check.
That's why I started investing in multiple cell cams, and that's because then I put those cameras in spots that like I'll put them in early, make sure that I got great batteries and stuff in there, and just let them sit, and then I don't go back in there, until I absolutely have to get the camera out of there or change batteries or something, because that's the beauty of those things.
The best thing for me with trail cameras is during season, just letting them sit in an area and they don't do nothing for me during the season. Because if I go check them, I screw myself.
Right.
But after the season, they tell me what was going on in the spot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, it repeats itself. So, for instance, we had put a little food plot in on Dave's farm, way in the back, right up against the bedding area. There's a bedding area over the hill. As a matter of fact, that's the spot he killed that giant last year. So there's a bedding area right beside it. So you actually got to creep in there to hunt that little food plot within 50 yards of bedded bucks. And then over the hill, 100 yards is another bedding area that's even better than the one that's next to the bed. But it's in a thick hole of dogwood and stuff, And we don't hunt it much. A lot of times we'll sit back with from about 500 yards with binoculars and just watch it, for a night. But, I thought, well, hell, I could put a cell cam in there and see what really goes on. Because we've killed a few bucks there, and we've seen a few bucks and stuff. And I always thought, oh, man, this is going to be a great early season spot. You put a clover plot in there and,
Yeah.
And I put a cell cam in there 2 years in a row. And what I learned was there wasn't a mature buck that hits that, and not even a decent buck. There's little forks and stuff, but not a decent buck would hit that thing until the third week of October. And then it'd be about a week span, and then it would just end.
Wow.
And I went back in my journals when I saw that, the 2-year repeat. And sure enough, every freaking deer we ever killed there or saw there was during that period. But cameras can tell you that stuff real rapidly.
Yeah.
They can tell you something's a bedding area is a rut bedding area. They can tell you, the first couple of weeks of September is when they're there. They can tell you they ain't sitting there until late seasons when the big bucks show up there, when everything else ain't got cover. Trail cams can teach you a lot, but you have to be patient. You have to be willing to get that intel and use it for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
If you put those cameras all over the place and you check them constantly to hunt,
you're screwing yourself.
you'll chase yourself in circles because you'll be going back to hunt deer. You've put your scent there and stuff, and you'll run around chasing these deer on the camera.
Yep.
And it'll drive you nuts, and you'll never develop a pattern.
Right.
What I did also, Dan, is cut a moraine. There's so many little parking spots, and I don't want to say hunted the hunters, but I put one in the parking lot, sort of, brushed in with grass so they're not seeing it, because I wanted to see how many people were coming in and using it, and the days I can't hunt, is anybody going in there? And I think that sort of helped, knowing not who is going in, but how often. Are they loud when they slam the door because you let the video go a little bit? Are they sitting out there? Are they leaving early? You can tell a lot just by the other people you got to share the woods with, though, too. I think that helped me a lot, too, because I wouldn't go in those places.
Yeah.
If you see 6 cars there or 4 cars during the week, and then obviously you go there on the weekend, you're the only guy, and you don't see anything, what's going on? Well, it's because it was overhunted all week long, So there's different, a lot of different ways to use the cams.
My wife turned me on to a video guy on YouTube who does these glitter bombs, and people steal packages, and he sets them up to get stolen, and it blows glitter all over them. And it's got me thinking I want to fill one of these trail cameras up with paint, like maybe permanent. I'm not as nice as the glitter bomb boy, but and then put a camera over the top of it, filming it, and do some YouTube shows.
They had one like that. They had one like that. The guy kept trespassing and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And stealing the camera. And I don't know, it was like
set
a
off
flash bomb or something.
It was like some sort of paint bomb or something, yeah.
And it was an older, chubbier guy, and he just kept trespassing and trespassing. and they got him, and they had it on camera.
So it was
I think I saw that
you?
one.
No.
Oh, you said older and chubby. I'm sorry.
Hey.
That could be any of us.
All right, so now for those of you that don't know, in January-ish, you do these learn to hunt. What do you call it?
Workshops.
Workshops. Okay, so Dan will actually take people out, either in an area you hunt or someplace you know.
Yeah, most of the time we do it in where I hunt, and we actually take them on public land and show them my setups and where I've killed some big bucks and stuff, and show them how I scout the property and figure it out and why I chose the spots and where the deer bed based on the stands and stuff and or the positions I hunt from. And it's been pretty popular. I mean, a lot of people want to pull me in other directions. Like they're always begging me to do workshops in other states and stuff. And that's just follow Dan through the woods while he points at things. I mean, I like I like teaching him from actual learned things. So going over a property where I've already hunted is a little easier.
And that actually brings up another point I had too. Is you're kind of a teacher. You've really gotten into the education side of things. What drove you into that direction to want to create these videos and teach people? And that
I think hunting saved me when I was a boy, and I'd like to see more kids go that direction instead of the direction I see them going.
Yeah,
and I'd love to see more people get into hunting and have more success. And if they're successful and if they learn how to hunt from an early point and they have success early, they'll stick with it, and they'll share that with their kids maybe. And I came from a generation where nobody would share anything. It was like trade secrets. You don't tell anybody what you know.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of hell when I started releasing tactics and stuff. And when I first started doing it, nobody else was doing it. And I would get angry emails and, people ball me out at a gas station or something. And I'd be like, well, what's wrong with just teaching people how to hunt,
Right.
I mean, give them the knowledge so that they can be successful, because it really shouldn't be like this big challenge like I'm the greatest hunter in the world. It should just be hunting is a challenge between ourselves, because there will always be cheating or advantages. Not necessarily cheating, but just a guy being rich and having no job is a huge advantage of somebody that works.
Right.
A farmer that owns 400 acres, should he not hunt it because he owns it?
Right.
So everybody has different advantages over everybody else. So it'll never be apples to apples.
Right.
So you're really hunting for yourself. And everybody has different reasons to hunt. I mean, you get kind of one-sided sometimes. Like you think everybody's out there trying to kill big bucks because that's what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
But they're not really. I mean, there's people that just go out to relax. They want to be in nature.
Yeah.
There's certain people that just want to shoot a giant buck and they'll never shoot anything else. And there's other people that just want to shoot deer and have fun, and none of it's wrong.
Right.
Right.
And it really sickens me when you see all these people, arguing over you shouldn't have shot that or you should shoot.
They belittle each other,
right?
Yeah.
How do you know what they
episode
should
on
shoot?
that.
You're not them,
Right.
But yeah, and I'm glad you guys are bringing that up, because most people don't talk about that stuff.
Oh, we actually talk about it
pisses
quite a
us
bit
off.
on here a lot. It's something we won't tolerate on any of our pages and that.
Why'd you harvest that muskie? The one gal, and they're belittling. She was in a kayak and a skirt and
In a sundress, and she caught this huge muskie, and she kept
Why didn't you release it? Why didn't you do that?
Because
Enough
it's
of
a
the crap.
fish. If she wants it, she can have it.
Exactly.
Right?
She
Yeah.
did it her way, and it was pretty freaking amazing.
Right.
Yeah, I'll never begrudge anybody from doing anything. There's guys that hunt on my lease with me that are only up for 3 days for opening week in a gun season. They're just happy to see deer and shoot a deer. Whether it be a little forkhorn buck or a doe or whatever, they want a deer to bring home, put some meat in the freezer to make some sausage or whatever it is to share with their friends and family. And I'm like, hey, that's great.
You think about this. I mean, I
love it.
Think about the first time you killed a deer. How exciting that was.
I'll never forget it.
There's nothing that pisses me off more than to see somebody belittle somebody on their first deer.
Yeah,
Right.
especially a kid.
Or the
too.
biggest deer they ever shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't care if it's a forkhorn or not. Like I said earlier, that button buck I shot, I'd trade my biggest buck for that deer.
Yeah.
That deer is my memory. I mean, that's
Earned a part in her soul.
Right,
And even
right.
on the backside of that, Dan, is, a guy will show a picture of his deer. well, it's not my biggest. He's like trying to defend himself because of all this crap.
He already knows
started.
it's coming. And I have people message me all the time, like they'll private send me a picture of the buck they got or something because they're afraid to show it online.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's sad.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. There's so many egos in that involved. I mean, yeah, we've got this, our group when we do our show and stuff, and we're like, we don't care. I mean, we shoot what we want to shoot. We hunt for the reasons that we want to hunt. Those are personal reasons.
Right.
We do it for ourselves, and that's it.
As long as you did it legally and ethically.
Exactly.
I really don't care.
Right.
Yeah, that's like me. I mean, you ask me questions, I tell you how I hunt. That doesn't mean I'm telling you how to hunt.
Right.
Right.
Everybody's got to choose their own hunt, and what they want to do and their goals. And I mean, you think about it now, and I'm hunting 80, 90 times a year, right? And my kids grew up without a dad on their birthdays and stuff because I was so ego-driven to get out hunting.
Yeah.
But, you know, am I a better hunter because I got more bucks on the wall than somebody who cared about his family enough to just go out and kill 1 or 2 bucks?
Sure.
You know, to each their own.
Right.
You know, some people want a career and they want money and they want to have a home and they want to put their kids through college. Is there something wrong with that?
Right.
You know, and there's probably something more wrong with me because the way I went about it, you know.
So getting back to your workshop, now you've taken people out on places you hunt. Have you ever found any of those students hunting? I mean, do you say, please don't hunt on my stuff and
on
then come
occasion,
back? Yeah.
I usually don't take people that are local.
Oh, okay.
So it's usually people that travel. And I have had people show up and hunt my spots. And it's sad that people would even think that, but you know, whatever. I mean,
Next time, just
I'll go
ask me
find
for the
another deer.
GPS
Right,
coordinates.
right.
Yeah.
I do tell everybody I hunt the spots, and I don't come if you're planning on hunting this marsh or this swamp or this woodlot or this farm that we're going to scout. But occasionally there's people that are just devious in every regards, and I'm not going to let that stop me from helping those people who are honest, because to me it's more important to bring more people into the sport and make them better hunters than if I don't shoot a buck next year, does it really matter? I mean, people won't even know. I think I've proven myself.
I think so.
I don't know.
Keep going. Kind of on that same point. So some of the things that you've been doing with educating, especially with public land and the guys over at the Hunting Public, have you noticed a difference in what you're seeing in other hunters? Are you running into hunters that are pushing the envelope more, that are becoming better hunters? Like, are you actually, because you don't just hunt that marsh or this, you kind of travel all over hunting all sorts of different public land. Are you noticing a shift?
Yeah, there's a more educated hunter on public land now. Up until about 10 years ago, and even more so in the last 5 years, it's really shifted now. But it used to be that public land hunters were usually not very smart. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that that's where you began.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's where you started out. And guys that got good or thought they were good gravitated to leases or to farms or to private land or something. Mm-hmm. And most of the guys you ran into on public land really weren't killing a lot of deer or, just period. And they seemed a little lost and their setups were off. But I'm seeing a huge shift in that. I mean, I'm going out to spots where you got to wade through water to your waist and go through dogwood for a mile, and you get there and there's a tree stand there, or, there's somebody set up there, and you're running into hunters and they're more educated now. They're talking, they're asking you questions they should be.
Yeah.
Of course, you're lying to them, but they're asking
400 yards across the road.
But I mean, there's got to be a part of you it's got to feel a little bit of pride in that, knowing that, hey, look, I put out a lot of educational videos and things like that, especially in public land. I mean, yeah, I know the Hunting Public; those guys are doing it now, but you've been doing it long before they have been as well. I mean, that's got to be somewhat rewarding to see. I mean, yeah, there's other people out there doing things like that as well, but I think you're one of the big ones for sure.
And honestly, when I think of swamp hunting, you're the only hunter that really comes to mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you've sort of cornered, not the market, but really, who else is doing it? Everybody is big woods, lease, farm, whatever. You're the only real person doing it, and you're given instruction, real life situation. You're out there. Now, you ever have a camera guy, or is it always you solo with the camera?
Yeah, occasionally I do, but usually I'm by myself. Most of the spots where I find big bucks are on edge, on that transition, and the trees are usually like 3 inches in diameter.
If you've ever seen some of his videos, he's 30 feet up in a tree, 5-inch diameter.
Yeah. I'm watching the video sweating.
Yeah.
If I did that, the tree would be going, as soon as I step out, it would spring
I
up.
got one that bends over like that, and I'm thinking I can get you up there to balance it. And you go on the other side, you can be my cameraman.
He steps off, and I shoot across the field. So with that being said, because you're hauling all your gear out, how do you get through these swamps and everything and quiet?
Well, I'm not quiet at all until I'm close to my destination.
Are you not carrying them? I mean, you're going to try to keep somewhat quiet, but you're super quiet within the last 500 yards, or?
Yeah, as soon as I think a deer could pick up my presence. So, I mean, that last 100 or 200 yards, I might be really sneaking, really going slow.
And what is your sneaking? I mean, some people, hey, I'm going to only move 100 yards in an hour kind of thing.
Does
it depend on the terrain?
That's very dependent on wind noise, rain noise, dry leaves.
If you have your boots on or not.
Right.
You've done that before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, every situation is different. And I get asked that question a lot, and it's just a hard one to answer because
situational.
I mean, if you've been in hill country and you're creeping up on that last, on a point, and it's dry leaves, it might take me a half an hour to get to that tree.
Yeah.
Right.
But if I'm in a dry section of swamp and there ain't much undercover or anything, and the wind is whipping, and I can just walk right to the tree.
Sure.
So every situation is different. You just got to use your best judgment that you're not making noise that the deer can hear.
Let's say you're in some kind of woods tree, not swamp and cattails or anything. Do you try to walk from tree to tree for cover, or are you got a direct path? And
when I get in there, usually I don't hunt the same trees every time. So I get in there, and based on the wind that day or the exact where I think the deer are going to come out,
right.
And a lot of times I'm hunting a spot I've never been to before, so I don't know exactly what tree I'm going to be in.
Right.
But when I get there, I stay back a little bit, and I'll stop and I'll just survey the area. And as a matter of fact, sometimes if it's a long trek, I'll stop like 200 or 300 yards back from the bedding area and just sit down and calm down. Because otherwise I get in that mode where I can't really slow down. But if I sit down for 5 minutes, then I can get up and go slow. And that's just something with me. No, I mean, because I'm so used to a fast-paced world where I run around in a machine shop, or I run around and do this, or I go put out fires with the tree stand stuff, or it just drives me crazy trying to slow down. Mm-hmm. So I have to actually physically slow myself down. But then when I get up close, I stop and I start looking at the terrain, and I look at how I think the thermals are going to flow, where I think that deer is going to come out, what trees do I have available to pick from, and then I might move a little closer. I might come in there and get halfway that distance, and then I'll look again, and my mind might change a little. And the whole time I'm trying not to cross deer trails. I'm trying to come in from a way that I'm not going to get seen or spotted. And I'm looking at obstacles. What do I have to walk through or around to get there? Right. So I'm not going to walk through a patch of briars, right? Yeah. So I'm going to pick a path. And it's really a process for me to pick a tree. I'm going to look for cover in the trees. I'm going to look for which trees, right? And it actually takes me a long time to pick out a tree in a new spot. So I actually put some time into it. So that pretty much slows me down even more than what I would actually go slow.
All right. Fair enough. Where are we on time? We good?
We're at the 40-minute mark in this section.
I guess I sort of wanted to bring up some of the gear that he uses. Are we going to do another episode here?
Are you?
I want to go over the gear.
Are you on time with Dan?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You're good for if we do another segment in that? Well, we got a little bit of time left on this one here.
Sure.
I just want to, we'll get into your gear here in just a second. You've been doing for the last, I think, a couple of years now, these public land challenges. and I think you did Michigan, and was it last year Pennsylvania?
Yeah,
Is
we
that right?
started in Minnesota, then we
is
did
it-
Michigan, and then in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so what started that?
That was my idea. I brought it up to Aaron, said I'd like to see a public land challenge where we challenge some guys from different areas and stuff to go to some place they've never hunted before, and just throw them in there and see who comes out with a deer, who don't, and film the challenge and film how they go about
Right.
figuring it out.
Yeah.
And kudos to him. He ran with it, and he understood that the power of that idea, and it's been great. It's been fun. I've loved it.
So what was the reasonings for picking Minnesota, Michigan, and Pennsylvania? Is it basically because those aren't necessarily thought of as
Here's how
Home turf?
Here's how Minnesota got picked. Aaron called me up and he said, "What states you want to do?" I said, "Whichever one you send me to, and I don't want to know."
okay?
And here's how Michigan got picked. He said, "Which states are you thinking about?" I said, "Wherever you point." Okay. And that's pretty much how Pennsylvania went too.
Sure.
I don't want to pick them, and I feel confident that wherever I'm sent, I can do well.
Right.
Okay. Do you have one lined up for anything for this year?
I haven't heard nothing from those guys. I'm sure Aaron will call me up and he'll say, "What state do you want to do?" And I'll be like, "Wherever you send me," because he asks me every time.
Yeah.
I just never give him an answer.
I think it's great. I think especially the fact that he picked those 3 states, because I think those are states that sometimes are overlooked. You think about Illinois, you think about Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Wisconsin.
Here, yeah.
Even like Ohio and things like that.
What is nice too is a lot of people that follow what I do and what the hunting public does comes from those states.
Right.
Right.
And they see all of us run to other states that are better to hunt. Mm-hmm. How about we, and I had a discussion in the beginning with Aaron that like, we should go someplace where nobody would go, go someplace where it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Right.
And difficult. And he's picking those spots. And, I mean, eventually we'll probably go someplace good and give that a try too, because otherwise it'll be like one-sided.
Right.
But, I like it. I like the challenging spots and the hard spots to go to. Like, I went off on a hunt on my own this last year. I wanted to go, hunt a different state, try something new, someplace I'd never been. And I put it out there. I says, "Hey, anybody want me to come hunt with you?" And I got offers in
How
Illinois.
many thousands?
Yeah, I had people offering me to hunt on their ranches and
Yeah.
everything else. And I chose going and hunting with a guy down in Indiana on his
Yep.
public and a little bit of his private, and just kicking back with him because it seemed like more of a challenge and more real hunting
Right,
next
yeah.
to what I'm doing. And that's the downfall of a lot of people and a lot of groups and stuff, is as soon as they start growing, they start getting those offers, they take them. You wouldn't believe how many outfitters call me up. I can have free hunting
Yeah.
and stuff like that. What do you think my fans would think if I just went off and hunted on those places? I could do it.
Right.
And I'd still have fans, and I'd probably just still make money.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, that's not what it's about.
Right.
I want to hunt on an equal playing field with everybody else.
Sure.
And that public land challenge kind of is that.
Right.
I might end up in your backyard hunting in that public land challenge, and let's see
Right.
how I do. I mean, and kind of what sparks that is wherever I go, you always hear that, little egotistical background noise of somebody saying, "Well, I'd like to see you do that where I hunt."
Right.
Yeah.
And okay, I will, and that's my little ego-driven
Sure.
part of it. But
Right. And ultimately, you're at the end of the day, though, you're still just trying to prove it to yourself.
Correct.
too.
Correct. I didn't mean that in that way, but it's
No, right.
But there is a little bit of ego there.
Yeah.
Whether
No.
you like it or not, if you're honest,
Right.
and the same when I fail though, it's okay. I failed.
But if you don't go out with that ego or that mindset, you're sort of doomed to fail of getting big bucks.
And let's be honest. If we didn't have an ego, we wouldn't be out there hunting big bucks to begin with. We'd just go kill a deer.
Right.
Right.
What would the antlers matter if we didn't have an ego? Mm-hmm. So we have somewhat of an ego. It's just a matter of keeping it in check and
Keeping it real, yeah.
and realizing there's other people with other.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
All right, if we got a few minutes here. So, do you ever do the outdoor hunting expos as either an exhibitor, a speaker?
Yeah, I've done them for years and years and years, but I haven't recently.
I was going to say, that's what I was. Nothing in the books, nothing planning?
Not as of right now.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, our hunt and beast gear business is just getting so overwhelmed that when things calm down and we catch up to orders and stuff like that, then
Good
we'll
problem
jump
to
back
have.
into that. Yeah, yeah.
Good problem to have. What are we saying here?
Well, why don't we go ahead and call it for this one right now, and then it's the hunting beast gear. That's a good segue into our next one. Dan brought one of his stands along here, and
the sticks,
and we'll talk about that stuff here. So stick with us, guys. We'll be back for part 3 in just a few.
Be right back.